ball rolling. And you know what? They went out and executed. They were hungry. They were, I hate to say it, they were pissed off. They were pissed off that they got smacked in the mouth. It wasn't about the one seed. We never sat and said, you know what, we still deserve the one seed, not the two. I tried to keep the kids not so much insulated from that because it comes out on Facebook. They know everything, social media. But what I tried to instill in them is that we have a district to worry about right now. It's nice to be up in the top four. You always want to be in the top four as far as, rankings go, but the rankings ain't going to win the football games. You gentlemen right here in this locker room are going to win. So that was the approach. We just went out. We had a mindset, and we were going to take it, district or the quarter semis, and you need to back up. We wanted a home game. We knew if we got the bye, we would get a home game on the quarterfinals, and that's what they started applying themselves to and redirect.
Well, it's funny because after the game against Silver, that message must have resonated strongly. And you mentioned Silver, there was some situations that came up in the game against Silver. You said, hey, there's no excuses. We're going to move on, right? We'll learn from it. And we wanted to bring it up. There's some other things that came around that game. We'll just leave it alone. 58-8 against Kirtland Central, 47-0 against Aztec, 49-0 against Gallup, 62-7 against Moriarty, 45-13 against House, and in the championship, 13-7 against Silver. So the message must have resonated, right? Because when you lose something like that, I always say this, Coach. I was involved in athletics. I say this to every coach that's on the show. I think sometimes losing we don't want to lose. We want to win them all. But sometimes losing refocuses and gives us a chance. And again, I've said this a million times, to refocus, right? And especially an opponent that is good. They're very good. You mentioned that. Holguin, the defensive end, they flipped him from right end to defensive end. He got a two-shot shot on Ryan Sharp in the third quarter, and he wreaked havoc in that third quarter. He did. So they've got a very good defense, a good defensive line, a good offensive line. They ran the ball well. Now, to be fair, Aiden Granado, their running back, wasn't available. Those things happen. I talked to one of the Silver's offensive coaches last night. I was in Silver City. They didn't use that as an excuse. They did not use that. Those things happen, just like you said. Things happen to you when you played up at Silver. You didn't say anything. The injuries happen, right? Aiden Granado's a fine running back. He was available on defense for Silver. He just couldn't run the football. Now, I got to ask you this. Opening drive of the game, Silver takes it down. The Colts take it down the field, man. They take it down the field. They look like a Lockett. That kid is a football player. He reminds me of Mike Alstott, right? Yeah, yes. He really does. I mean, of course, he's not Mike Alstott, but he's tough. He gets the tough yards. He's a very good running back, and they take it down the field and they score. In what, 7-play drive. What was your thoughts?
You know what? When they opened up and they made that third down conversion, and they had that little out pass, and we knew he was going to look at the marker. They when they need to get a first down, they always look where the yard markers are, and you're usually going to get a rollout to the marker, and they do a great job on execution. When they pick that up, I was a little worried, and then they started giving it to that big horse, and he's nothing but a man-child. I mean, Lockett is a complete football player. He played all of defense, at the mic, and then he had to run all the game, to really offset what they needed in their run game. And, they didn't have Granado, but I'm telling you, Lockett's a handful. Lockett is one of those individuals. You can't just bring him down. You got to get hats on him. And we were, we saw the quarterfinal game, then we saw their semifinal game and with Lovington, and I'm like, it must be nice to have three running backs that you can just line up at any time and let them go. But that Lockett, that young man, I get to see him this week at the Red and Green Bowl, and it's impressive. And when they scored, I was like, okay, how are the kids going to handle this? And that's what we brought them in real quick. This game is far from over. It's just the first drive. Let's answer back. And then, we stall. We don't answer back. And now that's when I was getting concerned. I'm like, we go 3 and out. We do some stupid things. And I'm like, okay, calm down. So we grabbed Augie, we grabbed Jesse on defense and Drew. And, that's the captains of that defense. And we started asking them, hey, make your adjustments, hit down below. And reiterated with Augie, we need more hats on the football. We just need more hats around the football and see what they could do. And I just was like, I was worried. I'm not going to lie to you. I was really nervous.
Well, I'll tell you what, you had mentioned that to me in our call on Wednesday night about hats on the football. And I think we'll talk about a play that Jesse Seitzler made in the second half of the show. But you mentioned that to me on Wednesday. Got to get hats on the football. The other running back is Ricky Vasquez, I believe, for Silver. He's their third back, and they use a two quarterback system. And Aiden Hawkins only had 100 yards rushing. He got some good yards running. He saw a pocket that in the first and second quarter, Aiden Hawkins again hadn't had a lot of yards running, but he found some yards with uncontrolled lanes. The pass rush came up the field. He found some running lanes. But I thought overall, again, Silver rushed at 5.8 yards per pop, man, on offense, right? Running. They're a running game first. They're not a passing team. They're a running team, then they pass. So I thought we'll get to that later. When they had to come back, it's a little difficult because everything is predicated on their running game first, and then they pass. And so when that was shut down, the running game, again, I think your message to your linebackers and your defensive front, your front seven, I can't even describe the job they did, right? Key plays when you needed them at the right time. Honest to God, right? I thought physically, this is just for me, I thought your Bobcats controlled the line of scrimmage, which is hard to do against that offensive front for Silver, the offensive line. Coach Ortiz told me how good they are, how much they have chemistry together. And they did, I thought overall, the Bobcats controlled the line of scrimmage, not overwhelmingly, right? But just enough.
Yeah. We did enough. When we practiced last week before the game, that was one of the emphasis with the line was all we got to do is control our gap scheme and make sure that one of these backers can slip through. And so when we practiced all week, we really focused on Jesse and Augie on you guys have got to find the crease. There's going to be a crease. I mean, they're so good and they scoop block well, they double team well, but sometimes, and Jay Gutierrez capitalized on it, when they pull the backside, if you just stay on your path, that tackle will take you right into that tackle. And, that was one time Jay Gutierrez got a big tackle behind the line of scrimmage. But then they also, when they double down on the front side and they go heavy, we have an Aggie set that we're trying to get one guy free because you're matching up bodies on bodies right now. And if we can get one guy free where it takes all of their bodies and we can pretty much even it out, we thought we could slip through. You're not going to do it every time on them. They're just too good. They're too physical. It's a great group of young men. But you know what? Sometimes you got to count on breaks. In high school football with 16, 17, 18-year-old men, you're going to get a break every now and then.
I'll tell you, I think that says it all right there because you just mentioned their power rushing game. We mentioned that, right?
Yes.
J.B. Richard, their receiver, a fine receiver, right? But near the end of the game, when they have to pass, they're behind the chains. It's 2nd and 12, 2nd and long. When you get 2nd and 4, it's you can do whatever you want, right? You can really game plan a lot different than when it's 2nd and 12. And I thought, especially in the third quarter, and then when Jesse Seitzler scored on that 75-yard pass from Ryan Sharp, the momentum really, Silver was a little bit more desperate after that because they can't grind it out, right? They can't grind it out, and the clock became their enemy with that 4th down conversion. We'll talk about that too. Key moments, Coach. You're going to look back on this one and say all these moments that got us the win. Go ahead.
I'll tell you right now, before the game, one of the things I said in my pregame speech was there's going to be 3 momentum shifts in this game. And I said, those momentum shifts are going to be so big that you can't fathom them right now. I said, I played in enough of these that you're going to see momentum shifts, and they're critical. 1, you're at home, so you're going to get the crowd noise. 2, it's going to help your team stay alive. It's going to help your team overcome the cuts on your hand, the swelling in your shoulders and your elbows, and, your knees are hurting, and just, bumps and bruises that happen throughout the length of the football game. I said, those momentum shifts have to come our way. We have to create those our way. And in the first half, one of the things that I thought that helped us was the long drive that we did right before we scored, because we scored on the second quarter, right when we changed sides of the field. And I thought that 6-minute drive was a great momentum for the young, for the men, because there was belief being instilled in them. There was movement being instilled in them. And they finally got to see, wait a minute, we can play with these guys.
Right.
sit here, we can slug it out with these guys. And that was one of the key momentums to start the momentum on our side, because we flipped the quarter. Ryan follows Jesse right up inside. They come off the field, and you could see it in their demeanor, their face. They had some confidence going in, right before half. We get the ball back, second quarter. We're driving. We get 2 huge pass plays. The thing that momentum killers, I heard you say this on the film. When George Rascon goes up for the football in the end zone, he gets pulled down. Everybody's like, oh, that's defense, the crowd, But then they find out it's offensive pass interference. That's something that could stop your momentum. But what that did was that made the kids madder. They were like, you're not taking this from us today. We are not going to be, subjected to something that is not out of our control. They wanted to stay on control. And so when we went into halftime, we talked about the momentum, and we talked about that's 24 minutes. You're in a tie ball game. Silver City has not had to really grind it out against the spread offense. Now, when they play Deming, and I watch that tape, Deming's big. They're going to grind it on you, and they're going to go. Well, his defense, if you run at them a bunch with a tight set, he's very capable and very confident he's going to stop your run. And you made the comment in the first quarter was over. You're like, I think they stayed empty. That was our game plan.
Empty set. Coach, I'm going to have to interrupt you. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, we'll get some highlights of your game on Saturday, which, again, you beat Silver 13-7 after these messages on the sports desk.
Yes, sir.
Brings it across. High inbound to Harris, not inbound. Harris finishes on the turnaround, though. Rebound's going to bounce. Goes to Coleman. Coleman in transition. In the left. Alley-oop. Oh, and it's laid in by Moses. Oh, that's the play. Steve Owiligi on the tackle 3-on-2. Good look. No finish at the basket. Blue cleans it up. High entry pass. Clearing it out. Harris takes it all the way around. Finishes at the basket and shows a bit of emotion. Sanchez with it, finds Kalu, big dunk. That's what you've been waiting for all day. Oh, well. Get off the high pick and roll. Oh, Harris backdoor cut. Good finish, and some double figures right there. Munn plays it to Kalu, who sends it home and draws the foul. The spin. Oh, the finish, Steve! Jules Aragon! That's a freshman right there. From TJ Sanchez.
Going to elevate? Yes.
And he sends it home.
We would like to thank the following sponsors for making this broadcast possible.
Don't sacrifice quality of flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
We here at Clark's Pet Emporium welcome you to bring in your pets. We know that having your pet with you makes the experience of shopping for them even better. And we welcome you to bring your kids also. Clark's Pet Emporium, your pet's second best friend.
We fight the battles no one hears about.
We drop into the middle of firefights to rescue others.
And act as one-man air traffic control towers.
We're the ones who go before all others.
U.S. Air Force Special Warfare are proud supporters of ProView Sports.
Rudy's is a proud supporter of ProView Networks.
As a mom, I try to make the best choices for my family and our health. That's why I choose Western Sky Community Care. It's a Medicaid plan with quality health coverage and special benefits like Boys and Girls Club membership credit, additional dental benefits, and wellness and support programs. I decide which Medicaid plan is right for us. I choose Western Sky Community Care.
Learn more about Western Sky Community Care by visiting discoverwesternsky.com today.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walking to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number one. Cover it with green stuff, one scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of ProView Networks. Welcome back to the Sports Desk. Our special guest today, Bloomfield head football coach Mike Kovacs. His Bobcats beat Silver on Saturday 13-7 to win Bloomfield's first championship since 1966. And Coach, you were just telling me how much that meant to you. I hope you don't mind me, sharing our conversation. You mentioned along the way there were some Bobcats that did make the game, and maybe you want to elaborate. I'll tell you, you kind of touched me a little bit, you know.
So we lost a couple of coaches this season, and Coach Ortiz and his staff, they're very gracious, and all the staffs, Art over at Taos, and Moriarty and them, their condolences. I lost my father. I've been coaching beside him, for the past 30 years, and we lost him in September. We lost him, and then in October we lost a very dear coach, another coach, Coach Darrell Pretty. I have two of his sons on our team, senior Deacon Pretty and freshman Diesel Pretty, and they both lost their fight with cancer, and it's such a beast. But you go back to the Silver game, you go back to that week of the sickness that we had, and then you go to the two losses, and then all of a sudden in a 3-week span, Josh Flores loses his sister. And the Flores family in the city of Bloomfield, or the community of Bloomfield, is very, very large, and everybody's they're all tied together. And you've been at all these small schools, and you see how these communities are tied together, and just family meant everything to us this season. And to go get this victory, not only for my dad, but for Darrell, for Coach Pretty and his boys, and just the community, and Josh and his family. There was a lot of a lot of tears Saturday when we brought that home.
Well, I'll tell you, our interview, you were pretty emotional, and I understand why. Any championship, and again, it's been since '66, your second year here at Bloomfield as the head coach, 7th year overall. But when you go through that grind and the things that your team had to get ready for and overcome. And we're going to get some highlights up here in a second, but we're going to talk about some of the key plays that were made. You mentioned there's the highlights right there. I think that's Silver's first touchdown. But, we're going to talk as the highlights play. You mentioned, what I wanted to ask you, the short passes. They were right there in the zone, just sit-down patterns, right? Sit down, short patterns, sit down, empty sets. You kept extra blockers in, right?
Yes.
And again, Holguin, the defensive end for Silver, There's here's that play from Jesse Seitzinger. Wow. But talk about your offensive approach in going empty. It works. It works. There was a couple times Holguin, their defensive front got some pressure. But talk about your approach there.
Absolutely. And I remember Sunday when I was rewatching the tape and you were announcing it, and you were like, oh, Sharp took a shot on the chin right there, but he got the ball out. And we knew we were going to struggle with both their defensive ends. We knew that they were such a talented group up front that if we could just not hold on to the football, get it out in 1.6, 1.8 seconds, empty the backfield, spread them across the field, and, just look for the matchup where we can dink and dunk. And that was our approach going into this game. And our first 10 on our play card was all empty sets. We wanted to see how they would empty. If we could get Lockett, we knew he was going to run the ball, but on defense, he flies to the ball. So if we could get him side to side, lateral movement, chasing us around, we thought then we'll come back inside and do a couple of runs. And you know what? It really complemented the short passes with, I'm not saying all the runs, but I'll tell you what, we had some success for 5, 6, 10 yards at a time, and we wanted to do.
You kept the chains moving. That was important. The time of possession, I don't know that we, if you went back and looked at that, I think Bloomfield won the time of possession, which is huge. For a running team like Silver, we mentioned that, I kept saying that, 5.8 yards per carry, right? They run downhill. They're going to run it down your throat, and they're going to tell you, stop us. They're going to line up. They're a power rushing team and say, this is what we got. What do you got? So I think your defensive approach, you mentioned that to me on the phone on Wednesday. We've got to get a lot of hats. I thought hitting them at the ankles instead of hitting them on the legs when they keep going. Jesse Seitzinger, talk about that 4th and 5 play. They had just run a power sweep to the left. Same formation going to the right on 4th and 5. This is a game right here. Talk about Seitzinger's amazing play.
It's a game right here. And Coach Lynch, he wanted to call his blast play where Jesse and Preston Armenta would knife through the B or the C gap, depending on the alignment of how they lined up. They just ran that play with Lockett to the right to their bench. So Coach Lynch, he did a great job. He gambled, and he's like, you know what? I think he's going to go right back at that to get his first down. So he called it. He slanted the front line that way, and we tried to put more hats on the opposite side of the center than they had. But the thing when you watch it from the goal line view, because I finally got the goal line up loaded, was our DN separates the tackle and just enough to create a crease, and Jesse just knifes right through it, right? That's what you want. We talked about that. He knifes through it, but his open field presence, I think if he would have tried to match Lockett shoulder to shoulder, they get the first down. But he got around his legs, he got below his knees, and he grabbed both legs so he couldn't move, because Lockett had kind of broke down to make a cut, and Jesse was on him. And that was such a huge momentum.
Oh
shift.
My goodness, man! He like you said, I think it was recognition. He saw the same. He said that in the interview after the game. Same formation. They just run it on the opposite side. Same formation. And if you're Coach Ortiz, why wouldn't you run that play? We're going power, right? We need 5. This has worked for us. Granado's not out there, but Lockett, he's had a fine game, right? Runs through the middle, tackling that kid after he gets 5 yards ahead of steam. Good luck. You did put some hats on him, but that kid, like you said, I said it on the broadcast, that kid is a tough football player. A lot of respect for him. So again, but it's funny, and I told you this when I interviewed Jesse Seitzinger after the game, an unassuming young man, right? A heck of a football player, but he didn't come puff his chest out like, yeah. He's more like, I recognized, I saw the play, I saw what they did the last play, and I just, did my job. But it was an incredible job, man, because that play right there probably preserved Bloomfield's first championship since 1966.
I really think it did, and I thought that was the second momentum shifter right there. We were talking about momentum earlier. When Jesse stalled them right there and we got the ball back, we had, I think it was like 8:17 on the clock. And, that's huge when they're right there inside the creeping in the red zone, and you just get the ball back. And you kind of looked at their kids, and it kind of, you seen their chest go down and their helmet starting to dip a little bit, or Coach Ortiz does such a great job with his team. And, you thought, okay, do we got these guys where we want them now? They're kind of down. They're looking at the clock. They're bickering a little bit on the sideline. And I'm like, this is a huge moment for us to do some things.
You turned them over 3 times. Both teams fumbled in the red zone. Both teams. Your team fumbled in the red zone. So did they. I think you picked off 2 passes for you intercepted. Bobcats intercepted. Well, key play with J.B. Richard hits him in the hands and kind of somebody knocked it loose, I believe, and then it goes up in the air. That was a huge interception. Talk about that turning them over.
Eli got a flag like the series before when we punted. He hit the guy and then he shoved him when he stood up. And one of the things we try to coach the players up on, to be honest with you, is if you're going to do something dumb, first of all, you got to have a short memory. Second of all, do something to capitalize, get something back. You already took something, so get something back. And when he came up and, him and I can't remember the receiver's name, was, jostling for the football as they were going to the ground, and you seen it slip out of his hands and it was live and he grabbed it. I mean, right there, you just made up for that mistake that you made. And that was the third momentum, that I talked about in the locker room, that, okay, now we are in a position that this is fantastic for us. We're in a position, even if we can't do enough to stall, they're going to run out of timeouts. They're going to have about a minute left, and he's got to he's got to throw. And I thought that them throwing played better into our hands than him running. And that was phenomenal.
That's just what I had mentioned too. Their running game, and then they pass. They're not a passing team that's going to come from behind. They hadn't been really tested like that all season long. An amazing season for the Colts. Give them credit. They only allowed 55 points all season long. But, Coach, your Bloomfield Bobcats are the 2022 4A state champions, 13-7 win over Silver. Coach Kovacs, thanks so much for joining us. We can't thank you enough.
Thank you. Thank the state of New Mexico, but really just thank ProView and everything that you guys do. And, the Bloomfield community, without this advertisement and without this going out throughout the internet and everything, it would just be word of mouth. But we love it. I love my community. I love my football team, and I love the Bobcats, and anything they do, I'll be there to support them. But this is one that we're going to talk about for 5 to 6 months for sure.
Quite a long time, I would expect, Coach. For producer Alden Iwani, I'm Ed Nunez. We'll see you next week on the Sports Desk.